Hare Krishna. So I will begin today's session. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yam Bravajantam Anupedam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakatar Ahujava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Bineduho Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Manimanatosmi Yasvanubhavam Akila Shruti Saramekam Adhyatmadipam Atititi Shatam Tamondam संसारिणां करुणयाः पुराणगुह्यं तं व्यासूनम् उपयामि गुरुमुनीनां मूकं करोति वाचालं भङ्गं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यमीश्वरम्. So welcome back again for this wonderful session on the science of Bhakti Yoga. It is 23rd session. So last time we had discussed about um, the Goswamis. To start up with the very important activities and the pastimes of the Goswamis. To start up with we started with the Rupa Goswami's pastime. So very importantly, we have to understand the history. If we don't understand the history, the greatness of all the people who have undergone the difficulties and struggles, uh, you know, because history repeats by itself. That's what they say. So we have to know, unless and until if we don't learn from what our ancestors have underwent, the difficulties and struggles, if we don't learn from them, so we may also again fall into the same way, and we also struggle the same way. So many times it is very much important for us to know the greatness of our elders, our ancestors, that how much struggle they have undergone to make the present day life very comfortable for all of us. So to begin with, I just wanted to, because I had little interest in history subject when I was in the college. I was very much um, liking this history subject. So it was more. It was more than um, it was in the first century or before BC, uh, before the birth of the Christ, or after the birth. It is the first century, second century, third. So all those times there was a lot of worshipping of Shiva worshipping, and the Shaivism, Shaktas, Shaivas, Ganapatyas, Kandas. So Devata worship was more. Even if you take the Rig Veda, the beginning part of the Rig Veda, and many parts of other Yajurveda and Samaveda, you find a glorification of Indra, the glorification of other demigods, Varuna. But hardly you find the glorification of the Lord Vishnu and things like that. So you have to understand that the science of Bhakti Yoga is over a period of so many years, succession, after the so many successions and so many filtrations, and after so many um, trial and test methods, finally the Bhakti Yoga what we have got is amazing one. It is a complete one. It is complete and it's by itself. So I was just reading the history. Say in the after the Vaishnava Shaivism was so much prominent and so much strong in the first century till third century, probably some 4 or 5 years during that time. And after them they come the Gupta dynasty, the Gupta period, the Guptas, where Chandragupta was the main person. Chandragupta, then Samudragupta, we might have read through our history subject. So that was during the fourth or sixth century. They themselves called themselves as Parama Vaishnavas. So they called themselves as Parama Vaishnavas, and they established a lot of Vishnu temples. And that was a time during the time where there's a lot of scholars like Aryabhatta who introduced the Aryabhatta who introduced lot about the astronomical calculations, about the zero, things like that. And Nalanda University came into existence. It was during the Gupta period. It was in the fourth to sixth century. It was during that time. So this Gupta's kingdom, this dynasty, basically they consolidated the whole India into one empire. Under the rule of Samudragupta and Chandragupta, like that. So they called themselves as Parama Vaishnavas. So then onwards, after the Gupta fell, the different dynasty came. I request everybody to kindly mute themselves. So after the Gupta dynasty, it was in the North India. So Vaishnavism was not that much visible. But in the South India, it took renaissance. It became revived because of the Alvars. So Alvars was during the 7th century. So Alvas was during the 7th century, and I request the Lena Saraf madam to kindly mute. Hold the legs like this. You can bend the knees and with the hands. Okay, I muted myself. So it was during the Gupta dynasty. After the fall of Gupta dynasty, practically the whole of North India, the Vaishnavism was lost. But in the South India, the Vaishnavism got revived in the 7th century, the following century, because of the Alvars. If you say the first three Alvars of South India, the Sri Vaishnava, if you say it was in 7th century, the Poge Alvar, Bhudat Alvar, and Pei Alvar. These are three Alvars, the initial three Alvars. There are 12 Alvars, right? So the first three Alvars, they were in the 7th century. Actually, from then onwards, in the South India, there's a lot of, even though there was Cholas who are ardent devotees of Shaivas, Shiva Bhaktas, but at the same time, parallelly, there was this Vaishnavism going through because of the great teachings of all Alvars. And we all know that, it was all because of this beginning of the Kali Yuga, because of the curse by uh, the Shringi. Now Shringi did a mistake, and he misused his Brahminical power by cursing Parishit Maharaj wrongly. Uh, so the whole caste system became after him. It says that whole of caste system became so much rigid, and the Buddhism and Jainism is because of the reaction of oppressive the caste system which was there in India at that time. And it was reaction of this oppression which happened in the caste system in Hinduism. So it all started, even though it all started 500 years BC, 500 years BC, but still the oppression of that caste system was over the lower caste was so neglected. They're neglected. They were made subordinates and so many things like that. And over a period of time, there's so much communist kind and atheist kind, and after the British rule, and all of them started giving a different narrative, a different twist to that. But even though it was harmful, the caste system was harmful, but ourselves we can say the very fact that whole Indian civilization stayed for almost 5,000 years, that this itself indicates that there's some kind of internal stability in this caste system, without which is such a long term could have not been survived, would not it not be possible. So even though so much of oppression in the caste system, if Hindu civilization, if Indian civilization called as Sanatana civilization has to sustain for last 5,000 years, it itself indicates there was some kind of internal strength or stability in the caste system, and whatever it may be. So even though we have to understand, there was a severe exploitation by the Brahmanas, Actually, when the Brahmanas did not do their proper duty, the yajana, yajana, the patana, patana, they have to teach people. They have to learn, they have to teach. And dana pratigaha, they have to take dana and also they have to give dana to others. So in this way, when Brahmanas were doing, it was all good. When Brahmanas fail to do, when they start accumulating or possessing the possessions or the money or the name or fame or the prestige and power, then automatically there was exploitation was happening to other castes. So there's abuse was happening to other groups of people. So as a result of this, there's a lot of rebel in which happened in that existing order, and a lot of revolution came. We all know that. So we all know a lot of revolution came. That's what this Lingayat system started, or Veerashaiva system started, Buddhism started, Jainism started, and even to say the Bhakti movement itself started. So we have to understand that after the Gupta period, the whole of North India, the Vaishnavism was completely lost. And in South India, because, and after the, a lot of Mughal rule came about in North India, but still in South India, it was very strong because of this Alvars and even the, if you take Alvars or during 7th century. So between the 15th to 5th to 7th century also, it was most part of the India was ruled by this Buddhist and Jains, because we all know that Ashoka was the ruler, and he used all of his the state's infrastructure in propagating and promoting the Buddhist culture. Recently, I had been to Lumbini, where the birthplace of Buddha. So there we could see the edifices or of the Ashokas, which he has built a temple for Buddha there. So it's all dilapidated. Everything is being destroyed now. And practically, Ashoka used all of his state's infrastructure for propagating or spreading the Buddhist the philosophy. And his son also, we all know his son and his daughter, they went to Sri Lanka and they also spread Buddhism. And Buddhism is so powerful that time. Even in Karnataka, there was a place called as um, so many places in Shravana that place, the lot of Jainism was there, and even Mudabidri, a lot of Jainism was there. So in South India, more of Jains propagation was there, even though Buddhist was not much. But in North India, a lot of Buddha's propagation, especially even now we can see if you go to the Nepal, most of the Buddhist monasteries are there. So many Buddhist monasteries, and furthermore Tibet, and furthermore there, almost touching China, a lot of Buddhism. So Buddhism was very popular. So even so, first and foremost, because of the political instability, there are a lot of the Shaivism which were there, and at the same time there's Buddhism which was there. Practically, the Vaishnavism was crushed. Practically, the Vaishnavism was crushed. There's nowhere. So in the 8th century, we can know that Adi Shankaracharya, who tried to revive the Vedic culture, to bring back people from the Buddhist culture. He explained to them about the Vedic culture, and even though he could not completely explain to them about the pure Vedic conclusion, because of time, place, and circumstance. This pure Vedic conclusion is what? Pure love of Krishna, pure love of God, pure love of God. Simply love God. So that was not possible because that time the condition was different. Buddhism and things like that, Jainism, things like that. So actually, as and when the years passed, centuries passed, from 8th century to again 11th century, Ramanujacharya came. Even though at the background, many of this the traditions, Vaishnava tradition were suppressed and were trying to somehow push forward, take forward. But still, it all came into light at the 11th century when Ramacharya started preaching. And he allowed all the low caste people also to take up this Sri Vaishnavism by telling them, by really making them read Divya Prabandhams, and made popular because Vedas were not allowed for the other caste of the people to read. So he propagated and popularized the Divya Prabandhams and things like that. And even in South, this west part, or you can say in the Karnataka place, and a lot of Dasa Sahityas, Dasas Madhvacharya came, Dasa Parampara, and furthermore in the Maharashtra side, Varkari Sampradaya. So whole of Bhakti movement started. So Bhakti movement started almost in the 15th century, kind like that. So when Mahaprabhu appeared, even when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in West Bengal, Shakta or Shaktism or Shakta worship or Shakti worship was so much prominent. And even Sachimata, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mother, also used to worship the Sachi, was to worship the Shashti Devi. So she used to worship the Shakta Devi. So it was so popular for in those times in the east part of the India, the West Bengal and now Bangladesh. So this whole part was so again Shakta tradition was going on. So even though the Bhakti movement was spread everywhere in the country in the medieval area, so after that, I mean to say like Mirabai or Surdas or Kabir Das or many of them, but most of this medieval era kind of Bhakti movement was about Nirguna Brahma. So there's no Saguna Brahma or worshipping the Lord, loving him as a person. It was not much. So even though very few Alvars and Dasa Sahityas they were trying, but still it was even though Dasa Sahityas, even though the Kanakadasa, Purandasa, Annamaya, Ramadasa of the Andhra Pradesh and all of them, they did, but still there's a touch of caste consciousness in the Bhakti movement. Even though now also if you see this, even Madhva cult, if you say the Madhva cult, and they have still caste conscious, and they have a lot of differentiation. Taratamya is obviously there, and so still that the pure love of Godhead was not completely given to the people. So we have to understand this Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It is all the why I'm telling the whole history. It is not that simply someone propounded something out of blue, out of nothing. No, it was a reason how that so much of Mughal rule came about, how much of suppression or oppression happened to the whole of Vedic culture, and it was lost practically. So it was again the Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which is a Krishna-centric Bhakti movement. So Gaudiya Vaishnavism is purely a Krishna-centric Bhakti movement, and even though it originated from the Gauda Desha, or the West Bengal and Bangladesh, presently Bangladesh, so it was all during the early 16th century. So Ramanuja came in 13th century, then again it was in the Ramanuja came in 11th century, then again the many things came about, and even this Veerashaiva or this Linga, this also came between the 12th century, 11th and 12th century, something like that. So it was all going through their parallel, it was all going, but still the Nirguna Brahma, Nirguna, no, like that. There's no personalism was not much prophesized. So it was practically it was in only 16th century, and where even though Chaitanya before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that is Madhavendra Puri, he started this whole movement called Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. But it was only because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who focused upon the Sankirtan movement so much, that is nothing but is unalloyed devotional service to the Lord and bhakti yoga to Krishna. And that was something he popularized very much through the Sankirtan public chanting and gathering people. And even though there was a lot of rigid medieval casteism was very much prominent, but it was this was something like a breathing, it is a new breath to the people and a new life to the people and a new way for the people to really start worshipping the God. And because you have to understand that situation where many of them all were changing their caste, or the changing their the whole, they're all becoming Muslims, they are changing their whole, the religion itself, because casteism was so much prominent. So rigid caste structure was so much rigid. And because of the Muslim rule, because of so much of taxations for the non-Muslims, so sorry, there's a lot of taxations for the non-Muslims and many things like that. At the same time, there's a sort of oppression of Vaishnavism, and practically it was not possible. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he propounded this, the whole of Vedanta, or Vedanta philosophy in the terms of Sankirtana movement, Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. It's not that Gaudiya Vaishnavas doesn't has any tattvas or any philosophy. They have philosophy, they have a tattva, they are given Brahma Sutra, the commentary to Brahma Sutra Bhashya by Bhakti Baladev Vidyabhushan. So we all have solid scriptural structure where to explain about the souls and the God's relationship and things like that. But still, it's all because in the a medieval era, it became so much, the so much of oppression was there because of all these political reasons. It was fizzling off. It was very difficult for people to gather, just like during the independence also, how Balagangadhar Tilak and many others, they wanted to gather people so that they can convey some message to people, so that they get together and started revolting the Britishers, and there will be big revolution would happen, and will get independence, right? They started the Ganapati or Pandal program, so people used to gather and they used to things like that. So we have to understand that during the whole of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the philosophy, the whole structure of this Gaudiya Vaishnavism was really established in a proper way by Goswamis in 16th and 17th century. So even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the few certain things, certain principles, uh, the foundation for the Gaudiya Vaishnavism, it was all later developed according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's will by Goswamis. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu practically he went to the Vrindavan, Vrindavan was completely lost, uh, and all the deities were taken away, and practically the Radha Kund, Sham Kunda were just a pond, small ponds amidst in a farm, amidst all the agricultural land. So when so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started sending one by one Goswamis to Vrindavan, so that they could rediscover the lost holy places of Krishna, and get back the deities, and the whole to make the bhakti culture, bhakti literature more stronger. So he had sent all of them. So you have to understand that it was all peak. The peak was during the intellectual peak. The intellectual peak was during the Jiva Goswami. That is Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami's nephew. That is Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Anupama were the three brothers. Last time I discussed about that. And the Anupama's son was Jiva Goswami. So Jiva Goswami, he organized all of the Gaudiya theology, and he compiled all those things, and he wrote the Shat Sandarbhas like Jiva Sandarbha, Krishna Sandarbha. The six Shat Sandarbhas are very voluminous, six voluminous books, which solidly which explains about worshipping the Lord, about according to the orthodox or whatever it is, Vedic parameters, with in the line with the Vedas. It's not something other than that. So we have to understand that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there was five important landmarks where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to propagate this bhakti movement. Very importantly, first and foremost, we all know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then how he confronted with the Qazi, Chand Qazi, when Chand Qazi was a magistrate, he was a Muslim magistrate in the Mayapur, that he wanted to stop the Sankirtan movement, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confronted with the Qazi, and the Sankirtan movement again became very public from that time onwards. Isn't it? It was not because caste brahmanas and all they were complaining to Qazi, and Qazi also didn't wanted this propagation of the Hindu culture. So, but it so happened when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confronted and had a discussion, and finally he made him agree. Then the whole Sankirtan, the Harinam Sankirtan became very much public. That was a very, very big landmark. And the second one was when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Sarvabhattacharya. Sarvabhattacharya was an impersonalist, a logician, Tarkavadi, and he made him a devotee. And because of Sarvabhattacharya become devotee, Sarvabhattacharya, who was a Rajaguru of Prataparudra, Prataparudra king became a devotee. So that is one more the landmark where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did it. And one more thing is, and when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to South India, he propagated this Krishna Bhakti in the South India, going to Kurma Kshetra, delivering the leopard Brahmana Vasudeva, and many of the meeting uh, Venkatapata in Srirangam, and going to the Tiruvattar, and again going to Udupi, again going to the Maharashtra. So he started explaining about the what exactly the Sankirtan movement all about. So this was one more wonderful way of propagating Krishna Bhakti that he is going to South India. And the fourth one was when Chaitanya Prabhu went to the heart of all Mayavadis, that is Varanasi. He defeated Prakashananda Saraswati. So that was also a landmark, to bring about the change in the hearts of Mayavadis. And the fifth one, very important, was Chaitanya Prabhu meeting the Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. And so last week we had stopped till then when Chaitanya Prabhu and Chaitanya Prabhu met Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Ramkeli in Malda. So till then we had stopped, right? So these are the five important landmarks of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So where he wanted to very important landmark events of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to propagate the pure love of Krishna. And this we have to understand. If that's what I'm saying, this history is very much important for us to understand, because this Rupa Goswami practically used to uh, make the ink and start writing on the talapatris, on the palm leaves. See, the palm leaves has to be, see, palm leaves, just like when you get the paper is not available in the nature like that, right? This Nilgiri tree is there, they have to make a pulp out of it, then there's a process, the whole industrial process, then the paper is made, right? So similarly, even the Talapatri, Talagiri, or the palm leaves, palm manuscripts also has to undergo a lot of treatment. Then when it is become ready, then you can write on that. So just imagine to make the Talapatri ready, to make an ink ready, to write on that, and then you start writing. It's so cumbersome, so pain studio, right? So now we'll just take one paper, one book, and start writing. But just imagine how much difficult it was there. So there used to be a Talapatri is readily available in the market. For that, the king has to sanction, this much or the tax for that, or how much where it has to go. So they used to control everything. So so that it will not reach much to the Hindu scholars, things like that. So many things are there. So you have to understand that prior to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there was a lot of autocratic, barbaric rulers like Babur and all. Babur was such a cruel ruler, and practically the whole of Vrindavan was desecrated. It was just next to the Delhi, right? And it was destroyed, completely destroyed, and Mughals, one after other, one after other, one after other. But you have to understand the Lord's grace. Just imagine, during the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu period was the Akbar. See, Akbar was such a understanding person, and practically, he appreciated the Surdas, he appreciated even Jiva Goswami, he appreciated Rupa Goswami, and I also heard that Akbar came and met Rupa Goswami like that. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, during that time, it was Akbar rule. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to send one by one, one by one, one by one to the Vrindavan. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Loknath Das Goswami, the Bhugarba Goswami. So he used to send one by one, one by them, one by one. So he used to, and these Goswamis did a remarkable job. They did a remarkable job by, finding the lost holy places, meditating on the places, finding that it was completely desolate state, it completely destroyed state. And practically, if Vrindavan is so much flourishing, it's all because of their contribution, it's their establishment. So you have to understand. So during that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu time, that Akbar was there. And Akbar also was very much inspired by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You might have heard many things like that. And as I said, Akbar might have met Jiva Goswami, things like that. So Akbar used to allow this Rajputs, the kings, to send the red stones. That's how Radha Madan Mohan temple was built, and Radha Goenji temple was built. It's all red stone. That was the initial temples of Vrindavan. Otherwise, practically, there's no temples like stone temples. You can see there's no temples like that. So actually, he allowed this Rajput from this Rajasthan. So he allowed them to send the stones so that it could assist the Goswamis to build the beautiful temples. And that's how the Gaudiya Vaishnavism was very much strong during the early 16th century. Early 16th century. But after Akbar, the Jahangir came, his son Jahangir. So Akbar died out of some ill like that. Actually, I had gone to um, a few years back, probably some 10 years back, I had taken some journalist to this Akbar's Samadhi. So many were thinking, why are you coming here? We are Hindus, you should not go there. And I told Akbar was such a favorable king that he was allowing our Goswamis to build temples and write literatures. So after Akbar, Jahangir came and he also ruled for some time. His Jahangir's son was Shah Jahan. We know that he built that Taj Mahal, thing like that. So after, it was almost during 1660, 1670, like that. So after the Shah Jahan was the Aurangzeb. So Aurangzeb was a tyrant king, and he was against all the Hinduism, and he was desecrating, he was destroying temples, and that's how it was after Goswamis. It after Goswamis that all the temples were again started desecrated and destroying, and the deities were transported to Karoli. The deities were transferred to Radha Gonji, went to the Jaipur. Radha Madan Mohan went to Kankroli. Then all the Madhu Pandit Das Goswami's deities. So all these deities all moved to Vrindavan. So this we have to understand this history, that how that the whole things as the centuries passed, because of the political reason and because of all this structure, the whole thing started changing and taking different picture altogether. And that's how, as and when this, because of this, it was becoming so stricter because of the Mughal rule, again it started falling off. Even though there was internally Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had given the responsibility for distributing the literature of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, but because of the political instability and things like that, and also at the same time it was because, see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not institutionalize the whole thing. If Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has started an institution, probably now Gaudiya Vaishnavas would have become like Sri Vaishnavas or Madhvas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not start any mata. Rupa Goswami Sanatana did not start any mata, or none of the Goswami started any mata, or the clan or the disciple succession. Nothing happened. It was all by Guru Shishya Parampara. It used to happen in without any institution, and that's how this whole thing. Because of that, there was a lot of deviants also came out, because Apra Sampradayas. So many Avla, Bola, Karta Beja, Neda, Saki Bega. So this all Bhaktivinoda Thakur Maharaj, he lists. These are Apra Sampradayas. So the whole tradition of Gaudiya Vaishnava was again lost. Probably in the again in the 18th century, in the mid 18th century and in the beginning of 19th century, is because of Bhaktivinoda Thakur Maharaj, who took up this whole thing, and he started recovering all the lost manuscripts of the Goswamis, and especially Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Chaitanya Charitamrita. And that's how it started reformatting the whole Gaudiya Vaishnava started reformatting. Then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, who came out and started institutionalized the whole thing in 1920s, 1930s. And Srila Prabhupada, we know that, and again he strengthened the institution and brought about all the rules and regulations. And now we know that we are all Gaudiyas. Just imagine how much struggles and pains this Gaudiya Vaishnavas has undergone. Now, it is not simply um, out of blue that we are going to chant something new. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama is something new. No, it is because I said how from the Gupta period, Shaktas from the Gupta period, then again it went to the, then it was Alvars, then again Shankaracharya, then Madhvacharya, Ramacharya, then Madhvacharya. Then, so this is a whole the history we can see how the Bhakti movement. Then after in the 15th century, the Bhakti movement started, and even in the beginning of the Bhakti movement, all was Nirguna Brahma, like Surdas and Kabir Das, and all this all Nirguna Brahma. Then again, it has to be brought, even though then Dasa Sahityas came, and Annamaya Ramdasa, they all came, and Varkari Sampradaya, everything came, but still there was the touch of casteism or differentiation in the caste was still there. And to break that, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, took up this whole the Vedic philosophy in a Sankirtana movement, a Sankirtana movement. So this very much important. We have to understand how this whole process was there. So last week we had discussed about how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Rupa Goswami Sanatana Goswami. That was one of the landmark event of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that we discussed. So after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and he accepted them as their disciples, and he renamed them. He renamed them as Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. So, and after that, they were there in the kingdom for some time, but they developed that whole of Malda. So the whole of Chaitanya Prabhu, after Chaitanya Prabhu left, they developed the whole of Malda, the city of Malda near the West Bengal, the border of West Bengal and Bangladesh near there. There they build a new Vrindavan there. So this near is place called as the Ramkeli. So, lakhs, we have to understand that they created, last time when we went, we saw there was Radha Kund, Shama Kund. It's just at the border of Bangladesh. So much there was a wonderful Vrindavan garden, Kadamba Kanana, Kadamba Vana, and so many things. So it so happened finally, Rupa Goswami and Anupama, they decided that we have to leave this place, and they left that place. But Sanatana Goswami didn't want to leave that place because he knew that he was at least one of them should be there, otherwise the king will be very angry. So he was a Muslim king, so Nawab Hussain Shah. So then he stayed back. So here Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Anupama, this last brother, Rupa Goswami, Anupama, they left. And they went to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They got to know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is heading towards Vrindavan, but they met in Varanasi. And in Varanasi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dedicatedly, he instructed Rupa Goswami for 10 consecutive days in the Ashwamedha Ghat. So that was a little association where the long association of 10 days where Rupa Goswami got at one stretch, where he got all the instruction and he started writing the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu from that. That all the etiquettes of the Vaishnava rules and regulations a Vaishnava has to follow, all those things was discussed there. And here Sanatana Goswami could not leave immediately. And when now Hussain Shah came to know that Rupa Goswami and Anupama have, because Rupa Goswami was made a treasurer, and he has left, and this Sanatana Goswami is also not coming to the office. And then he sent few letters and sent a few soldiers to find about what about his this thing. But he used to send saying that he is not well, things like that. But when he personally came, now he personally came to the house of Sanatana Goswami, where Sanatana Goswami during that time he was discussing Bhagavatam with the other devotees, Vaishnavas. So immediately he gets angry and he says that no, this is not the way you have to do. And Sanatana Goswami says, please relieve me. I don't want to come and serve you anymore. And immediately Nawaba, he gets so angry and he imprisons him. So this is a history. So he imprisons him. And that story, how he escapes, we'll discuss during Sanatana Goswami's pastime. But here, Rupa Goswami and Anupama, they goes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the Prayaga. And the second meet. First meet was in the Ramakeli when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had come to their place. And second time is after Rupa Goswami left his all of his belongings. Chaitanya, the Rupa Goswami also very beautifully Srila Prabhupada mentions when Rupa Goswami was giving away all of his properties and all of his wealth, he started dividing. So how a man should divide his wealth, how a ideal Vaishnava has to divide his wealth. So Rupa Goswami gave 50% of his wealth to Vaishnavas to utilize in the service of Krishna. Okay. And 25% he gave it to all of his relatives and friends, family members, relatives like that. And just 25% he kept for any emergency and not for himself. That emergency was also used by later for Sanatana Goswami to escape from the jail. That we'll discuss about when Sanatana Goswami is pastime. So you have to understand when Rupa Goswami and Anupama Goswami, how they divided the wealth. And Prabhupada says, even similarly, we should also do that as a Vaishnavas. Because Bhagavatam says that this is how every man should, how he should divide his wealth. And this is exemplary according to the Bhagavatam way. So Rupa Goswami and Anupama, they go and meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Varanasi, and it was at that time, the second time when they meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it was the first time where Rupa Goswami mentions that verse, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Premavadayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauradishe Namaha. That was a sloka where he falls at the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he offers his prayers to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that is a wonderful prayer we all offer for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? So after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Rupa Goswami and Anupama, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reassured the both of them that nothing to worry. Soon the Sanatana Goswami also will be free from all the materialistic life. He'll be completely free and he'll come and take Shema shelter. Nothing to worry and nothing to worry, all those things. So finally, the things went on for the many days and months, and Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami were asked to go to the Vrindavan, and Vrindavan, it was completely lost. Vrindavan was completely lost, and Rupa Goswami and Sanatana, Anupama, they used to sit. There was no temples, there was no matas or ashramas during that time. So practically, it was the whole place was lost after the Vajranabha, after Krishna's grandson, who was established all those places. So when Rupa Goswami, before Rupa Goswami, there was Loknath Goswami and Bhugarbha Goswami. Chaitanya Prabhu had already sent him, had sent them, but they were also at one corner because whole of Rajamandala was such a big. So all these Goswamis, Loknath Das Goswami and Bhugarbha Goswami and Rupa Goswami, they used to sit in one place and start meditating. And that's how they used to Vrunda Devi used to come to their dreams, come to their and help, and they discovered the Talavana, Mahavana, Bahulavana, all the 12 vanas, Dwadash vanas of Chitta, where Krishna had performed all of his pastimes. So you have to understand. So it was a well-planned mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he used to send every Goswami to Vrindavan, every Goswami to Vrindavan. So one Goswami, everyone was to go and join each other and stay there and rediscover the lost holy places. And also they used to write a lot of scriptures and build temples and convince people and preach them. At the same time, they had a renunciant kind of life. So renunciant that they used to stay in one tree and next day in one more tree. They never used to get attached to even one tree also. So just imagine. So Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, and that is the greatest of Goswamis. They lived in Vrindavan and they were the leaders, especially Rupa Goswami is a leader of all the Vaishnavas. Even though Sanatana Goswami was a brother, but Rupa Goswami was a pioneer in establishing a lot of the Gaudiya literatures. And that's why it's called as Rupanugas. So even we are called as, ISKCONites are called as Rupanugas, the followers of the Rupa Goswami. So they used to have a lot of renunciation, full of renunciation, and they had completely given up all the worldly comforts, completely given up. They had a simple cloth, and they used to walk in barefoot, and they used to eat some berries, some fruit, some madhukari, whoever used to give, that in Vrindavan, and to stay in one night, one tree, and the second night, the other tree. But they was always concentrating about how to write the literature, how to do scrutinizingly, how to make this whole systematic study of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So, and as I said, that Akbar was during that time, so they also was to help them in building temples and sending them a lot of the stalapatris, that palm leaves, so that they can write all those things. And this way, they, actually, even now, if you all, if some one of any of you go to Vrindavan, you can see there's a Vrindavan Institute. There's a Vrindavan Institute in the Krishna Balram Road itself, and they have preserved Rupa Goswami's writings in the talapatris, in the palm leaves. There's wonderful writing. His handwriting is so beautiful. And everything is in Sanskrit, and some are in Bengali. So so I'll end with this session with one wonderful instance which happened in Rupa Goswami's life. It once so happened when Rupa Goswami was trying to excavate the lost holy places of Vrindavan, and it so happened, at one place, when Rupa Goswami was meditating in one place, there was, he got a dream. So he got a dream wherein he saw that one cowherd man, and he came to him, and he took his hand and pulled him to one Gomati Tila. There's one place called the Gomati Tila. There's a small Tila. Tila means hill. Kila means fort. Tila means hill in Hindi. So Gomati Tila. So it's a small hillock, and immediately when he saw there, and there was a cow which was just every day the cow used to go and release some milk over there. And immediately Rupa Goswami got up from the dream, and there was no boy, and nothing could he could see. There was all full pitch dark. It was in the night. And next day, immediately, he went to that place, and he gathered all the Brajavasis, and immediately he brought loads of milk and started curing the all the mud and the dust which was there on the hillock. And finally, for his astonishment, he found out the Radha Govindaji deity. So that was Radha Govindadev was the personal one of the important deities of Vrindavan. The three important deities: Radha Govindadeva, Radha Madan Mohana, Radha Gopinatha. So these are the three important deities. Was made by Vajranava himself. So Radha Govinda his face is so beautiful, and it so happened that Radha Govinda was when he was found out, then immediately all the message was sent across the people. And since Rupa Goswami was so popular and so prominent scholar and also great saint of Vrindavan, so he wrote a letter to Mansingh. So because Mansingh was also a great devotee of the Raghunath Das Goswami. So because of the Mansingh's help, as I said, Akbar also helped in the Rajputs commanders, to send all the red stones from Jaipur to Vrindavan. So that's what that building was built. Radha Govindadev temple was built. So first came the Radha Madan Mohana, second came the Radha Govindaji temple. So that is a wonderful the pastime of Rupa Goswami. And furthermore, in next session we'll discuss about how Rupa Goswami was personally uh, uh, you know cared by Radharani when Rupa Goswami wanted to feed kheer or a sweet on the occasion of Sanatana Goswami's birthday. So all those wonderful pastimes we'll see in the next session. So this is such you have to understand in this way that how the Goswamis had to struggle so hard to establish this whole of Gaudiya Vaishnava literature for today for us to read and get connected to Krishna. And we have such a wonderful community and wonderful the lifestyle, and practically it is nirbandhik Krishna sambandh. It's not that we all have to leave somewhere, leave everything and go to the forest. No, engage everything in the service of Krishna. That's Rupa Goswami's the whole philosophy is. So use everything in the service of Krishna and for the pleasure of the Krishna and not for oneself. So this is the wonderful the pastime of Rupa Goswami and all about our history. So anyone has any questions we can discuss, else we can end the session. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you all so much for your patientful hearing. And next session we'll again continue with Drupa Goswami's further pastime. Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.